Casual Sports Guys podcast and webcast, depending whether you're on YouTube or Podomatic.com, but this is episode 60. On today's show, we're talking the double crown, or the two-thirds crown, already accomplished by injured superstar I'll Have Another. Today's show brought to you by Norway. Screw Finland. Norway. Today is just barely Saturday. It's June 9th, 2012, 1:33 a.m. and today we'll host officially the most anticlimactic what the hell running of the Belmont in, well, I don't know. I don't know who keeps track of horse races anyway. Don't we just care because NBC tells us to care? Don't we just watch it for the chance, the off chance to see Meadow Soprano in a big hat and sundress? Well, the reason why today sucks is I'll Have Another, the four-legged monster who had won the Preakness and before that the Kentucky Derby yesterday morning, who was going for the Triple Crown, the first one since 1978, is now out. And you know this. It was all over every single thing yesterday. Brian Williams talking about it. ESPN talking about it. He had a torn ligament in his leg, but at least he had this little girl to keep him company. Chicks dig horses after all. This is so crazy to think of how this has unfolded. The bad luck on this horse and on this owner, trainer, jockey. Tobey Maguire would turn this down because it's too complex. Disney wouldn't do a sports movie on this because they would call it unrealistic. Now, I hate it when people do. I hate it when people do what I'm about to do. I hate it when they say where they're from because nobody cares where anybody's from. But being from Vancouver, I gotta say this has been the news of the day. Well, obviously, that's not saying too much at this point. But you see, normally in Vancouver, we have to pretend to be a part of everything from Seattle. The Mariners, Nirvana, Starbucks, and that does include our only link to thoroughbred racing, Seattle Slew, who won the crown in 1977. But this is different. I'll Have Another, a racehorse owned by a dude from Ontario with Mario Gutierrez, a Mexican jockey who trained at Hastings Racetrack in Vancouver. The place was lined up, it was ready for a party on Saturday, and the worst part is, today's print papers, like the paper papers, ones that you fold from right to left, all you saw was stories from last night about how I'll Have Another would win the Triple Crown, because the news hadn't broke yet. But they were all those what-if stories that were depressing when reading them today that basically assume the horse was just going to win. And you know, assuming that kind of confidence, that always works out in Vancouver. But the odd thing about this is, it's a tragedy, as far as that word can be stretched. It's not Katrina tragedy, but I guess it's close. But as sad as this thing is, all indication points to the horse being put to stud, which means he won't die, which is basically like being a horse model, but also a sperm bank. But the great thing about horse racing is that they are treated like people, which is awesome because of how well they're treated, but it's also absurd. It's so absurd that they actually are seen as people, so much so that ESPN's 100 Greatest Athletes of the 20th Century had Secretariat at number 35 and Man of War at number 84, just past the Rocket and Otto Graham. Listen, Secretariat is no more human than Serena Williams. The fact is, now that I'll Have Another is donezo, this is basically just a horse race. There's no intrigue, there's no suspense, and in Vancouver, the worst part is there's no party. This was the Casual Sports Guys, episode 60. Kolby Solinsky here. Until next time, keep it casual.